Chicago, the Windy City, known for its deep dish pizza, jazz, and towering skyscrapers. But beneath the surface lies a different story. For many African Americans here, it's not just Chicago, it's Chiraq, a city where dreams are often shattered by violence and poverty. The nickname reflects a harsh reality. More people have died on these streets than in some war zones. How did we get here? How did a city once full of promise become a place where survival feels like a daily battle? And could ancient wisdom, like the teachings of the Torah, offer us a way out? This is the story of Chirac. Chicago's roots start with John Baptiste Point de Sable, a black man from Haiti who founded this city in the late 1700s. He was a trader, a pioneer, a symbol of resilience. His settlement by the Chicago River laid the foundation for what would become one of America's greatest cities. But as Chicago grew, it became less welcoming to those who looked like him. Over time, systematic racism and segregation pushed African Americans to the margins of society, setting the stage for struggles that would last for generations. In the early 1900s, millions of African Americans fled the South during what's known as the Great Migration. They were escaping lynchings, Jim Crow laws, and crushing poverty. Cities like Chicago promised freedom and opportunity, a chance to build better lives for their families. But when they arrived, they found themselves confined to overcrowded neighborhoods with crumbling infrastructure. The dream of Chicago was real, but only for some. The Black Belt became home to most of Chicago's African American population. It was vibrant with culture, jazz clubs on every corner, churches filled with hope, but it was also plagued by poverty and neglect. Landlords charged sky high rents for rundown apartments because they knew Black families had nowhere else to go. The city kept these neighborhoods isolated while denying them access to better housing, schools, or jobs. In the 1960s, civil rights leaders brought their fight to Chicago. Dr. King marched through these streets demanding fair housing and equality, but he faced fierce resistance, not just from politicians, but from everyday citizens who didn't want their neighborhoods integrated. King called Chicago one of the most challenging places he'd ever worked because racism here wasn't just overt, it was deeply entrenched in policies and practices. As poverty grew deeper in Black neighborhoods, so did street gangs. Groups like the Vice Lords and Blackstone Rangers formed initially as protectors, offering young men a sense of belonging and purpose in communities that felt abandoned by society. But over time, desperation turned into exploitation as gangs became involved in drug trafficking and violence. For a brief moment in history, gangs tried to become community leaders. They organized protests against police brutality and demanded jobs for Black residents in construction projects across Chicago. Some even started youth programs to keep kids off the streets. But without moral foundations or long term vision, these efforts crumbled under corruption and ultimately led back to crime. The Torah teaches us about building strong communities, ones rooted in justice, shared responsibility, and compassion for the vulnerable among us. It emphasizes that leadership isn't about power, it's about service. Imagine if these principles had guided leaders in Chicago's African American community during its critical moments. Systematic racism wasn't just an idea, it was policy. Redlining kept Black families out of wealthier neighborhoods while underfunding schools and public services in their own communities. These policies created cycles of poverty that still exist today. And they are one reason why some neighborhoods in Chicago feel like entirely different worlds. In the 1980s, crack cocaine hit Chicago streets, and so did the war on drugs. Instead of addressing addiction or poverty, this so called war criminalized entire communities. Harsh sentencing laws sent thousands of young Black men to prison for nonviolent offenses, leaving families broken and communities even more vulnerable. By the 1990s, gang violence had spiraled out of control. Young men joined gangs not out of choice, but out of necessity to survive in the city that offered them no other options. Entire generations were lost to bullets fired over street corners or drug turfs. These are real people with real pain, not just numbers on a news report or dots on a crime map. Chicago's schools have failed generation of kids on the South Side. Underfunded classrooms mean fewer resources, outdated textbooks, no after school programs, not enough teachers who care or have time to help every student succeed. Poverty isn't just about money, it's about access to basic needs like healthy food or safe housing. Many neighborhoods lack grocery stores or healthcare facilities, and instead are filled with liquor stores or payday loan shops preying on residents' struggles. The Torah emphasizes leadership rooted in service, not power or greed. Leaders are meant to uplift their people, not exploit them and guide them toward justice even when it's difficult. Despite decades of hardship, hope still exists in Chiraq. Across Chicago, grassroots movements are stepping up to fill the gaps left by systematic neglect. These efforts reflect one of the Torah's most fundamental teachings, often translated as charity, but more accurately meaning justice or righteousness. The Torah commands us to care for the vulnerable, not as an act of kindness, but as a moral obligation. Leaders in these neighborhoods embody this principle as they work tirelessly to provide food, mentorship, and opportunities for those in need. Their actions remind us that justice is not passive, it's something we must actively pursue every day. The Torah emphasizes unity as the cornerstone of a thriving community. In Deuteronomy, we are told, "You are standing this day, all of you, before the Lord your God. From leaders to laborers, everyone is included. This idea teaches that healing begins when we stand together as one people. In Chiraq, unity is starting to take root. Churches, mosques, synagogues, and also secular organizations are coming together to address violence and poverty. These collaborations echo the Torah's vision of collective responsibility, where every individual plays a role in repairing the world. Unity isn't just about surviving, it's about creating a future where everyone can thrive. Breaking cycles of violence requires more than just policing. It demands education and empowerment. The Torah teaches us that leadership begins with taking responsibility. When Moses saw injustice, whether it was an Egyptian beating an Israelite or shepherds abusing Jethro's daughters, he intervened. He didn't wait for someone else to act. He stepped forward. Today, programs in Chiraq are following this example by teaching young people how to resolve conflicts peacefully and giving them tools to build better futures. These initiatives reflect the Torah's call for leadership rooted in action and accountability. The Torah offers a blueprint for building a just society, one based on compassion, fairness, and shared responsibility. In Deuteronomy, we are commanded to pursue justice, emphasizing that justice isn't something that happens on its own. It requires effort and persistence. Imagine if this principle guided Chirac's transformation. Abandoned buildings could become community centers. Failing schools could be revitalized. Streets once plagued by violence could become a safe haven for children. This vision isn't just wishful thinking. It's rooted in the Torah's promise that when we work together with purpose and faith, we can create a society where everyone has dignity and opportunity. Chicago is more than its struggles. It's a city full of resilience and potential. The African American community has endured unimaginable hardships, but also has shown incredible strength. The Torah reminds us that every person is created in the image of God, a reflection of divine potential waiting to be realized. What if we embrace this wisdom? What if we pursue justice not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors? Chirac doesn't have to remain a war zone. It can become a beacon of hope for generations to come.